Christians think they're following Jesus, but they're actually following Paul. Paul actually never met Jesus in person. In fact, Paul was not one of the 12 apostles that did. So how does Paul know Jesus? Through a vision. A vision. Galatians 1:11 to 13. In fact, Paul directly contradicts the teachings of Jesus in the Gospels. In Romans 10 verse 9, Paul says, "If you declare with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, then you will be saved." But Jesus says in Matthew 7 verse 21 to 23, "Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name hast cast out devils? And in thy name many wonderful works?" Jesus then goes on to say, "And then I will profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work in iniquity." But wait, what about the Gospel of John? Jesus clearly claims he is God. The Gospel of John, while a canonical gospel, is not a synoptic gospel. The Gospel of Mark was written 30 years after Jesus' crucifixion. The Gospel of Matthew and Luke were written 50 years after. But the Gospel of John, over 70 years after the crucifixion of Jesus. There are many instances where the Gospel of John contradicts the synoptic gospels. While Jesus in John 14 verse 6 famously says, "I am the truth, the way, and the life. There is none through the Father except through me." In Mark 10:18, Matthew 19:17, and Luke 18:19, when a disciple asks him, "O good Lord, what must I do to earn eternal life?" Jesus then replies, "Why do you call me good? There is none good but one, that is, God." But let's assume since John is canonical, it is valid. Jesus still contradicts Paul. In John chapter 8, verse 3 to 7, religious leaders brought in what we would call today a bop, a woman that sleeps around, or whatever Gen Alpha slang you want to use. They say, according to Moses' law, since she committed adultery, she must be stoned. But then Jesus famously says, "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone." In fact, this is one of the few instances where Jesus teaches a similar thing in the Synoptic Gospels, such as Luke 6:37. "Judge not, and you will not be judged." But Paul, on the other hand, in 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 12 to 13, he says, "Do not ye judge those who are within?" Meaning, don't you judge everyone in the church? He then goes to say, "But if you are outside, God judgeth. Therefore, put away from amongst yourselves that wicked person." And that is exactly why Christians have this judgmental culture. Jesus never taught this judgmental culture, but Paul did. But John 14 verse 6 still says, "I am the truth, the way, and the life. None through the Father except through me." So obviously, he's God, period. Right? That's only viewing it through not only Paul, but through the Nicene Creed, which established the Trinity in 381 AD, over 300 years after the crucifixion of Jesus. That's why Jesus in John chapter 14 verse 28 says, "The Father is greater than I." And so many Christians use so much logical gymnastics to explain that. After all, it's the letters of Paul and the Nicene Creed that Christians believe today, not the teachings of Jesus from the original Synoptic Gospels. So, if you identify as Christian, are you still going to follow Paul, or are you going to follow Jesus the Lord?